So once we were confident that our numbers were robust for the financial and environmental costs of each technology, we then wanted to put everything together and get the model for electricity generation in Bermuda for each of the scenarios. So before we do that, we wanted to address the intermittency of the renewable generations. And we can do that in several ways. For example, demand response, which is when we can shift the demand to when renewables actually generate electricity. So you can turn on your air conditioning when the sun is shining and turn it off at night. So we're using energy when there is renewable generation. We have curtailment, so because renewable energy is so cheap and so clean, we can afford to actually generate more than we need and throw away the excess. We have battery storage, so we can store the excess energy and discharge it when we need it, when there's no renewable generation. And we have, finally, fossil fuel generation, so we can actually burn fossil fuel to fill up the demand when there's no renewable generation. So putting it all together, we have our demand forecast, and we account for the energy efficiency that we expect to increase and reduce the overall energy demand. And we have historical data on the sun and wind in Bermuda. Then we have financial costs and environmental costs of each of the technology. And then we apply the measures we can use to address the intermittency into an hourly dispatch model, which is essentially when we calculate the renewable generation based on the wind and sun data for every hour of the year. And we will fill up any demand using fossil fuel and battery storage. And this is what it will look like, for example, in the winter. In the blue, you have a lot of wind, and you still get a bit of solar in yellow. And the green shows the battery storage being discharged when we have excess energy. And the grey is the fossil fuel. And then in July, which is the summer, you can expect to see a lot of solar energy. And we have, in order to compare which electricity generation is the optimal mix, we looked at the financial and the environmental cost of each of the scenarios. So when we ran the calculations, we found that the average cost for each scenarios are quite similar. This is because although renewables are cheaper, when we account for balancing the load using fossil fuels, it brings the cost up. However, in the renewable scenarios, the prices are stable, and you're investing in an infrastructure that is providing local energy. So you're effectively diversifying your risks. In the fossil fuel scenarios, the costs are expected to increase, and they're extremely volatile, and you're investing in a single infrastructure. You're basically putting all your eggs in one basket for fossil fuel generation. So although the average costs for each of the scenarios may be similar today, you're diversifying your risk if you invest in renewables. And if you look at the environmental impact of each of the scenarios, it becomes very obvious what the benefits of renewable energy generation is. If you look on the left, the figure shows the carbon dioxide emissions that the electricity grid that Bermuda is currently generating for each unit of electricity. And if we go towards the right, you have the figures for renewable scenario, the carbon dioxide associated with renewable generation, and you're effectively halving or reducing by 2/3 the carbon dioxide emissions for each unit of electricity. And this is just the greenhouse gas impact. This isn't even accounting for the health impacts, you know, the sulfur dioxide and the small particles that are released during burning fossil fuel.